Okay, looks like we have a forum, so we'll call this meeting of the King George County Planning Commission to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for allowing us to make it through a year, dear Lord, and to usher this year in, dear Lord. May we ask that you keep us in one heart, one mind, dear Lord, as we go about the county's business. We ask that you keep your everlasting arms of protection around those who may be on their way, dear Lord, and as we depart this place. These are the blessings we pray. Amen. Amen.
Before we get into the agenda, I just want to say Happy New Year. I know it's been about a week now, but for all the faces that I haven't seen yet in 2024. Happy New Year. Okay, with that, we will open up for public comment. If you have public comment, please come to the podium, state your address, name, address, and if you would keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Mr. Dines, anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. At this point, I'll close public comment. Approval of minutes. December 12th.
Motion that we approve the minutes from December 12th.
We have a motion? Second. All in favor? Any abstentions?
Abstention. There we go. It's a lovely evening.
Okay, Community Planning Liaison Officer, Naval Support Facility, South Potomac.
Hey.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Nice to meet all of you. My name is Adam Lynch. I came on in October as the new CPLO, Community Planning and Liaison Officer for NSA South Potomac. I'm sure most of you knew my predecessor, Thomas Hastings. Took a job on community planning at Naval Station Bahrain, and I began in October with his position. Working with the installation commander, Captain Wilson. I will be sort of a liaison, a go-between subject matter expert for Captain Wilson and his team, trying to improve relationships, build on what is already a strong relationship between Dahlgren and George County, our host community here. And ultimately, one of the most important things is to address encroachment. And encroachment is a term that we use quite a bit. It involves any kind of friction or issues that happen between the installation and its community. And encroachment is a two-way street. It's anything where the community impacts the installation, but also any negative impacts that the Navy or the Defense Department might have on our community. So, but the most important thing from my perspective and my experiences is working and communicating between the two is the best way to solve any issues before they arise. So a little bit about sort of the chain of command, the way that our command is structured at Dahlgren. I report to Captain Wilson. Captain Wilson is the commanding officer for Naval Support Activity South Potomac, and that is the host installation to two different bases. One is here at Dahlgren, the other is in Indian Head in Charles County, Maryland. We are even referred to on the .mil website as the landlord for several other supportive commands within Dahlgren installation. And that includes the Naval Surface Warfare Center, probably the most prominent, well-known, historically the central mission of Dahlgren's installation, but also several others, including the Aegis Training and Readiness Center, JWAC, the Joint Warfare Analysis Center, detachment of the Surface and Mine Warfare Fighting Department, and the United States Space Force. So we have quite a diversity of different missions on the installation, and it's our job, NSA South Potomac's job, to try to protect all of those missions and make sure that they all work harmoniously with each other and with our surrounding community. So altogether, those tenant missions, those supporting commands, contribute over $1 billion to the local economy, and roughly 10,000 jobs just on Dahlgren's installation. Also, King George provides a valuable service for us, among other things, hosting about 30% of the workers on Dahlgren here in King George County. So certainly a mutually beneficial relationship that I look forward to strengthening as we go ahead. So a little bit of background about myself. I'm 35 years old. I grew up in Spotsylvania, graduated from Cortland High School, went to James Madison University, have a degree in integrated science and technology with a minor in geography. After that, I started a job with Marstel Day, which is an environmental and planning contractor based in the city of Fredericksburg, primarily doing Air Force and Marine Corps encroachment work. Left my job with the Marstel Day, worked at Fort A.P. Hill for a stint, and then ultimately caught on with Friends of the Rappahannock, a nonprofit based in Fredericksburg. You guys might know my coworker, Brent Hunsinger, who is the river steward for King George County. I was the river steward for Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, and Stafford. So jumping over here to do more work in King George. So I'm looking forward to taking some of the lessons I've learned from the environmental field, but at this point, I'm mostly a relationship builder. So thank you for hosting us. Thank you for holding a space for me while I was getting my feet under me over at the installation. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. And we too look forward to communications and moving things forward that's mutually beneficial for both the base and the county. Thank you so much.
And thanks for coming out on a nice night.
All right, we have no plan reviews. We have no public hearing. We have no old business. New business. Election of officers. Did you spin a big wheel? If your name comes up, you're it. No. Any nominees?
If I may ask, so I'm not on social media because most of what I do is either boring or questionable, but a number of people have sent me a bunch of clips today from the Book of Faces, and allegedly last night there was a board meeting where there was a discussion of changing the number of members on the planning commission from 10 to 5, and they further went on to appoint 4 of those 5 members. Is there any gravity or truth to that, or can we discuss that? I mean, it would make elections moot. That's the only reason I ask.
So yes, last night the board of supervisors and the board of directors held a joint work session where towards the end of the board, the supervisors did mention that they wanted to reduce the number of planning commission members from 10 to 5. They did not appoint any people. Those appointments were to a different board. But yes, the board's plan is to reduce the number. So I would recommend that once you elect the chair reaches out to Mr. Collins, who's the chair of the board of supervisors, or you can each reach out to the supervisor for your district who appointed you to your seat and discuss that with them. But as of right now, no action has been taken, but the board does plan to reduce the number to 5.
Was there a reason as to why this was proposed?
It's just recently come up and the board has not gone into great detail about it. I think in February, there will be some discussion during the board supervisors meeting about this.
I watched the meeting online. Thank you, Mr. Dine, for your good work in keeping that set up. They did discuss reducing the board number. The rationale was fresh thinking and more efficient processes. A couple of board supervisors did suggest names and they deferred action on it until they had discussed it with Chairman Moss at some unspecified time.
So were they proposing reducing it to 1 representative from each district, or what was the proposal of cutting it in half?
It was not specified. They did discuss various methods and concerns. regarding the process by which the existing board would either roll off at the end of their terms or voluntarily self-discharge. That was my recollection.
So it's my understanding that members can only be removed if there's a performance or behavioral issue. Is that, so how would that work from a?
Voluntarily, as expressed, as I understood it, as voluntarily, but the question was raised, how do we do this? Were you aware of the original organizational meeting they had 3 days before, where they made some changes? I think the county administrator and county attorney were terminated.
They put in their resignation on the January 2nd meeting, and that was accepted unanimously by the new Board of Supervisors.
And currently, Senator Richard Stewart Sr. is serving as the interim county attorney.
Yes.
I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I had also been forwarded an article from the Freelance Star that talked about severance packages and things that were going to be, that they were going to be getting, which doesn't sound like you get a severance package if you decided to resign.
They were under contract.
That's beyond our
So
scope for this. We'd have to take that up.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just,
No, I think
I
Mr.
don't know how they
Nicely's,
expect us to decide, well, we're gonna do rock, paper, scissors to see which person from each district survives, or
well, I like your idea that we all get large severance packages.
to explain the severance package, the county administrator and the county attorney both have employment contracts with the county, which includes the severance term.
even when they resign.
That was negotiated between the
Yeah,
county.
that's not our purview.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's not our purpose for being here to discuss that broader Board of Supervisors politics. I just don't know how they expect us to proceed forward if they're proposing to completely restructure the board and reduce its membership. I don't know how we can proceed forward with electing a
that's-
chairman
Yeah, so that's what I was just,
who may or may not be here.
Correct.
so if, look, if you want to defer, or if you just want to make a vote, if you want to keep me for a little bit until the Board of Supervisors has the conversation, if somebody else truly has the desire to be chairperson,
Let me ask,
wholeheartedly recommend
has any of us,
do
has
that.
any of you been contacted by this Board of Supervisor who appointed you
No,
to discuss?
I have not.
Then I say carry on business as usual until we are notified of something different. That's my suggestion.
I agree, and I looked at the bylaws. There are reasons to remove sitting commissioners, but I believe I recently learned that the state only requires you to have 5 minimum on a planning commission. So they don't necessarily have to ask for anybody to step down or to find a reason for them to leave, to just have people, when their term ends, not appoint. But I do think it's something that we should wait for them to determine.
Yeah.
They have to discuss it. You've got 3 new members on that board, and they should have the same opportunity that we do to have something presented, take the time to mull it over, and then have them come back and discuss it. I have no problem keeping the positions as they are until we find out more. I don't think anybody's here is dissatisfied with our.
Is that a nomination?
I'd like to ask Chairman Moss, do you have a desire to remain, or your preference, or Chris? If we don't want to interfere with other plans that you may have had.
Chairman, go ahead, sir.
So, look, it's absolutely a privilege. It is also time consuming. And to be quite honest, I do believe that as much as possible, everyone up here should have an opportunity to be the chairperson. I would be honored to be nominated again. I would accept the nomination if that's the case. But just know, from my perspective, is I believe that everyone should get an opportunity to see the commission from this perspective.
And I'll just say, if we wanted to maintain status quo, I'd be happy to stay here. I will further add, for what it's worth, if there's anybody out there that may be watching that is in the the reign of power that can change this board, while we do oftentimes go long hours, I have always, and I've said this many times, especially when I was in Mr. Moss's seat, had a tremendous amount of respect for the way that this board will coalesce, even after some fairly spirited disagreements, and come forward with a respectful and cogent way ahead that is, in my opinion, again, I may not always agree with it, but I always think that at heart, what we've done is always in the best interest of King George County and its citizens, the taxpayers, and the future of this county. So I say that, and I'm just going on Mr. DeCourta's comment about efficiency. Efficiency is good, but efficiency always doesn't get you the best answer. So I would just throw that out there, not as an impassioned plea, but just as a data point to consider when you think about restructuring a long-standing board of this nature. That's, I think, again, we've had a lot of, I think since I've been on this, Mr. Kendrick is the only member of this August group who has been on here longer than myself at this point. And I can tell you, I've learned a lot from him, but I've also learned a lot from everybody else on this board. And a lot of what I've learned is the diversity of thought and the perspective that each one of you bring is, and in each one of the prior members also, I'll say, have brought to this dais has been much appreciated. And again, I go back to, I think it's all been done in the best interest of the county. So I would just caution truncating or necking down the Planning Commission for the sake of either political efficiency or convenience. That said, I'll be happy to stay on as long as I'm allowed, which may not be that long.
I'll move to nominate Chairman Moss for the position of chairman.
Second motion.
All in favor?
I'm not saying it.
Motion passes unanimously with one abstention, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Oh,
Second.
Who was the second?
Oh, good.
Thank you.
somebody's got to call it. I can't.
All in favor?
I abstain, but thank you. All right.
You also need a secretary, don't you?
Hopefully that does also show that we agree with you, Mr. Parker, that we are not in a hurry to make any changes.
Thank you, Ms. Flatley.
One other matter.
We also need to elect a secretary for the commission.
Is this new?
Yeah.
This is not new. This is the person responsible for preparing your packets, sending out advertisements, and keeping your meeting records. That was previously done by Ms. Hall and myself.
That's part of the requirements for the commission?
Yes, sir.
So are you suggesting that it's one of us, or are you suggesting that we nominate you?
Yes, sir, essentially. Without saying
I
it.
nominate you.
Well done.
You can't nominate
Very
myself.
well done, sir.
I nominate Mr. Richard Stewart Jr. as secretary of this
Thank you.
fine organization of the King George County Planning Commission.
All right, we have a second for Mr. We have a second?
Good seconds and thirds.
Whole thirds. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, that was the first time that's been called to a vote. Well, in the couple years that I've been here, so that did Yeah. Maybe it was just a known bylaws.
So I just
Any
wanted to use.
changes to the bylaws?
We put in the, we put the time limit. That was
Yes.
That was a couple years
right.
before I got here.
at the hour of 12.
7:30.
They have to do the same thing.
Hard cutoff at 7:30.
Just to be clear, there are no changes from the previous and what's in our packet, correct?
That's correct.
If you want, I can go over a couple major highlights, or you guys can take action now.
I have one suggestion. It's not, I don't know if it's bylaw appropriate, but at public hearing,
Speaking to your mic, sir.
picked up at the supervisors, meeting as well. They said at public hearing, they'd like to make the habit or the practice of having a discussion of the public's input, by the panel. The chair would say, discussion after everyone had spoken. And I think that would be a way of reinforcing the connection to the public input. And if there is no discussion, there is none, but a chance for us to ask questions about prior, background, history, practice.
So right now, what we'll have public hearing, or even if it's, public hearing or public comment. So you're saying add where we have a discussion after public comment or after public hearing?
The chair would just say, is there any discussion?
But isn't that encumbersome in when we have discussion over whatever the matter may be?
Well, I see it as an opportunity to adjust the agenda for upcoming meetings. If there's a point that was brought up during public comment that, we really see value in bringing to the table, it would give us the opportunity to really pull it forward, make it visible, get it on the agenda, and move on it. Where right now, it happens, but it's not as visible.
I say,
And I could see it as an opportunity to help refine the agenda to focus on issues that the community sees as pertinent. Now something else that happens to the Board of Supervisors when they do their votes even. So they'll have the motion, they'll second the motion, and then they'll stop there. And that's when they'll have discussion, where we have discussion first, and then we determine the motion, and then we go through the voting process. So that's a procedural thing that we do differ on.
I kind of like that because I know there were times when we had several proposed options, and we weren't quite sure when we were discussing things where the cards laid, so to speak.
we've had some
So,
tricky ones.
To say, hey, this is the thing that we think has been presented and seconded, and now we can talk about that one instead of trying to sometimes think of the 3 or 4 possibilities that we're discussing.
Yeah, I personally appreciate how we process, because I do think the same way, where we get into those deep discussions and we do pick out the elements that are challenging, and sometimes we table, sometimes we'll move forward with one. Sir?
So if, back up real quick, public comment, I agree with the bullet point on discussion afterwards. We just got to make sure, I think, that we're discussion and not conversation back and forth, because that can get ugly. On the motion, I think I like discussing it first, because once you make a motion, then you need to vote on it. So if we get a good feel of how everybody is, then we know we're going the right direction with the motion. We can stop if we need to and talk about it if we want to after we make the motion. Because I think sometimes we do make the motion and something gets changed, and then we never get a chance to kind of go back. But I think both of those are good points.
I was thinking like get input from the Historical Society or the Friends of the Rappahannock or something, and that will trigger something that may be important for input into the community development plan, which is the big event coming up, in the future, is, capturing that sense of the community and thinking through some of the alternatives and implications of what we may hear, not necessarily for a public comment on a action, but in general public comment or hearings. But it's a way we respond, it's a way of demonstrating to the community that we're listening and we're taking their concerns seriously and we're responding.
So I don't think that'll be a bylaw change. I think it'll just be, procedural that we,
The bylaws do contain the order for the agenda. So if you want to add in a discussion about public comment after public comment, that would be a bylaw change.
oh, okay.
We could put that as planning commission discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever, right, so it's not,
Yeah,
the
it's not
public
what-
doesn't feel like it's a discussion with them.
And was there consensus to change how you guys discuss things from, instead of discussing before a motion, to having a motion be seconded and then begin discussion?
So let me just make sure I understand. Are we talking about having sort of a summation by, is it just a group discussion then?
So what I foresee, based on your comments, is after public comment, we would close public comment, and then I would just ask, is there any discussion on comments made? Something as simple as that.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that at all. I was just, again, as was suggested by our council at the moment, is, the order of business lays out a couple of things. We already do that on any new business or old business we discuss. I don't know that it's a big deal putting it into the bylaws underneath the order of business, but it's section 4. So if you citizen comment period and discussion, or if you wanted to make a modification there, but we sort of do that on everything else. So I just don't want it to get too wordy.
So looking at section 4, you close the public hearing. It says discussion of members. It goes directly to, and usually during that time, if we have questions for the applicant, we bring them back up, right? So as we have our discussion, sometimes we ask for, more information. The next step would be the motion. I think the question is, do we want to add another discussion between the motion and the vote, the way the Board of Supervisors does? Is that-
Oh, we have two things here. So one, with the public comment, that's really the opportunity for anyone in the county just to come up and tell us what they're thinking, what they're feeling, their observations. And at the moment, in the agenda as it breaks down, we go from public comment directly to approval of minutes. Now, it could be that we jot down elements of public comment that are near and dear to us, and then we can bring it up under new business. I'm just saying that we may not have to change the bylaws. I'm fine with that too.
So we would have, you would call it public comment and
then
planning commission discussion?
Just put another bullet point under that says planning commission discussion.
Right.
We need to amend the bylaws to do that.
And I think a lot of times we do it now anyway. We'll comment after all the
Yeah.
public comments. We'll say, that's something to think about. We'll have to discuss that in whatever meeting.
And then the other one was the procedural piece, just how our process is slightly different than the Board of Supervisors. And I think the consensus was we really appreciate the current way that the commission manages the discussion, because sometimes we do have to formulate the motions based on the discussions where if you already have a motion out there and then you go to discussion, you might have to withdraw the initial proposal because discussion would take things in a different direction. So again, it's my opinion. I think how we're organized and how we do it is good. I just wanted to point out that there's a procedural difference to allow the commission here to give their 2 cents. What you think? What you feel?
If I could get clarification also, just taking the first one. So what you're suggesting is kind of under public comment, we add another bullet that's public comment discussion. That planning commission discussion for those public comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll close public comment and then we'll go to commission discussion.
Good practice to just add that in the bylaws.
Yeah, I would just add in the bylaws. And just to be clear, this is only for the general public comments. This is not for during public hearings.
Right.
The public can then give comment.
Correct.
So we have far more structure on the public hearing thing, and I think, I don't think we've ever taken public hearing discussions lightly. And I will agree with Mr. DeCourt. I think it's good, because sometimes, let's face it, sometimes we have some pretty hardy agendas, and so public comment comes in, I think just in the rush to get to the business of business, we sometimes maybe gloss over what people say. So I think it's good for the standpoint that it's a forcing function to make us reflect on what's being said, as well as acknowledges to the public that we're taking what they're saying seriously, right? So,
okay, rather than making a change to the order of discussion and everything, there's duties of officers. The chair shall be a member of the commission and shall, and it lists 6 things. You want to just put a note under there to, to summarize as the chair deems appropriate and clarify, the issue of discussion after a motion has been made. I mean, we could just add it there.
Yeah, and to add to that, the chair determines if it's going to be an open discussion or if it's a closed discussion as well. Is that?
So we're good with the public comment, close public comment, have discussion. That's one issue we're talking about here. Then the other one about the motions and bringing them forward.
Yeah, I think I've heard 2 things mentioned here, but I think the opportunity to somehow acknowledge to the folks making just, the citizen comments, just as a way of acknowledging that, yes, we heard what you said. I don't want to encourage them to get into a discussion with us.
Right.
I never want to do
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
close public comment.
And then, but that would be the call of the chairman to decide whether it's a simple thank you for making the comment, kind of a statement, or if it's summarizing what you heard said or whatever you want to do. And sometimes they get up and just make a comment that's not really related to anything we're working on.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Acknowledge it.
After all the public comment has been made, we don't discuss it. So let's say an individual comes up, we open public comment, an individual comes up, gives their point of discussion, not germane to what we have on the agenda, but something we hadn't considered, but maybe we should talk about it. We would wait until all public comment had concluded, close public comment, and then say, there was a valid point during public comment, that level of discussion.
Or you could turn it back to the commission and just ask the commissioners if there's anything they want to say.
Agree. And that's what they're saying. To formalize it, just put a line in the agenda. And if we do that, it's a bylaw change.
So that would fall under, section 4, the order of business. So right in between citizen comment period and public hearings, we can just insert that there.
So is it for public hearings? Is it for public comment?
This would come before public hearings, so it would
No,
be
comment.
the citizen comment period, and then it would be your discussion with the citizen comment, and then after that's concluded, then we would go into public hearings.
Right.
Gotcha.
I think, as I understand it, I would prefer to see it just under the duties of the chair.
I'm good with
That
it.
would also be an amendment to the bylaws. So putting it under the duties of the chair would still be amending the bylaws to add that. Or putting it in the agenda order would be an amendment to the
I am
bylaws
as
as well.
Okay.
I don't
And,
think
and,
so.
and I can work on making that amendment and bring it back before the commission at your next meeting. You can vote to approve it.
Maybe all moot.
I think the comment was a good comment, and the two things that we're talking about adding are excellent ideas. It's, again, acknowledging the public and also then clarifying exactly where we're at in the process of making a motion and approving it, and whether one that was made and then got further discussion gets pulled back and canceled and a new one made. I not to dump on the chairman, but that sort of is, I think, the chairman's responsibility to sort of do that. And if we want to put it in there, I'd put it in under section 3, the duties of the officers. It's still there.
Well, that's why you get paid so much more than the rest of us.
It's 6 1/2 dozen to me.
Either way is good.
Either way. If the chairman responsibilities are into the agenda.
We just need a consensus on which one you want to change.
Chairman, make a decision.
I would prefer the agenda because sometimes I come in here running 500 miles an hour and it would prompt me to make sure that I'm accounting for it. Correct.
All right.
All right. Any other,
Well, I think we need to do a motion and
oh, we have to
One second,
formally
can I
vote on
get,
this?
consensus that you all agree to make that change in the agenda section of the bylaws? So you want to add in?
We just
the,
need general
Yeah,
consensus,
just
no
general-
motions.
Roman vote. There we go.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
And where the discussion on, I think during public hearings, you want to discuss either before you make a motion or after a motion is seconded, where did that,
Yeah, I thought we were just going to leave it as
Leave it.
is.
okay.
Is that correct?
I'm good with that.
No change.
That can just be a procedural that you bring up.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have to change it for them.
And so you do need, even though we're gonna make these changes, you do need to adopt the bylaws. So if you'd like, you can make a motion to adopt the bylaws as presented, subject to the changes discussed at this meeting, which you can then approve at your next regular meeting.
We have a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt the bylaws as presented, except for the change to add the agenda item to add commission discussion after public comment.
Second motion.
We have a second. All in favor?
This is unanimously. All right.
Anything else with the bylaws?
I know we've had some questions on special meetings in the past couple of years. I don't know. It's listed in the bylaws,
Yes.
which
What you mean, like our
which
work
we didn't
session?
do, that they have to be announced within 5 days by mail.
I think, I'm wondering how much that, well, no, I take that back. I was gonna say, my almost out loud thought was, I wonder how much that's gonna be relevant moving forward since we're coming through all of the zoning and planning updates, but we got the comp plan updates coming ahead of us again.
That's this year.
So yeah, that may well result in more special meetings.
Notice special meetings.
Yeah, I think we're okay for now.
Leave it. Next.
electronic participation policy. So is that a leftover from the COVID era, and we're just gonna keep it as an option? Or are we looking to shut that down?
No, I think we need to keep it as an option. I think you have a certain number of electric attendances, if you will, I guess, that you have per year. But I don't think any of us have infringed upon that at all.
No, make a statement. Commissioners are encouraged to attend in person.
Correct. Right.
It does say that you can only use this if you are unable to attend a meeting due to temporary, permanent medical condition or disability, personal matter. So basically, it's not, I'm on vacation and I just want to call in. So I think, when there's a valid reason, we should respect that.
This revision, if I recall, was to undo or return to the prior, it's a post-COVID.
That's correct. And I think we put a lot of thought into it. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that it really necessarily needs any additional tweaking, because I think it still does, without directly saying it encourages in-person participation. I believe it does do that. So,
Mr. Dines.
Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission, at one time, we were thinking of not using the GoToMeeting anymore for that purpose because of additional cost. But I'm not sure the Board of Supervisors is open to that, so we would have to check with them. But what we would have would be the ability for YouTube to be used for live meetings. And then we have a phone number that you could call and you could speak through the audiovisual system. So that would be the replacement if we did permanently get rid of GoToMeeting. But like I said, I don't think that's open for debate at this point.
Yeah, if the Board of Supervisors makes a hard left or right, we can definitely fall in line. And if it's a cost savings thing and we use YouTube as the overall, paying attention to the meeting, and then you just use an audio bridge, I think that works. It'd probably be less complicated.
That are team, do we have Teams or not? No.
You probably don't have Teams on your tablet, but that could be something you could use, like you could connect in through that as well.
Okay, I think we should leave it, especially if there's talk of going to a smaller board.
Yeah.
One vote, if you're working on something for weeks and then someone can't make it.
The smaller board is going to make it difficult sometimes to get a quorum.
Yep, that's true.
Highly encouraged to participate in person.
Oh, good times we live in.
Alrighty.
Do we have to make a motion?
Nope, because it's we're not changing. It was just a discussion on that one. Annual report.
You do need to make a motion to adopt.
I make a motion that we adopt the current electronic participation policy.
Second.
All in favor? Because it was separate from the bylaws?
Yes.
Annual report.
Document.
Technicalities. Start off the annual report. We actually have 9 commissioners currently. Mr. DeVries recently resigned from his position. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank him for his 10 years of dedicated service, not only to the citizens of this county, but the tasks and applications that were presented before him. That was recently submitted, so we can plan on a commendation for Mr. DeVries on the next agenda meeting.
Amen.
Moving forward to the rezoning request, I think in my time here, this was a pretty busy year for some of these. I'll go over a high level of these. Just to clarify too, the bolded action at the bottom was the action by the governing body. That does not reflect your recommendation on these cases. The first was the Birchwood Amazon rezoning from agricultural to industrial. That one was approved. Second was the Walnut Hill rezoning request. That was from A2 to R3 residential. That was denied at the December 19th board meeting. The third rezoning was by the Kenston Farm Industrial to Agricultural. That was to support the training facility. That one was approved on December 19th. Zoning ordinance text amendments. We had the amendment to remove hospitals as by right use in the commercial districts. That was approved. Second was the amendment to allow microbreweries, cideries, distilleries, or wineries in the commercial districts. That one was also approved. And third was the adoption of the overhauled King George County zoning and subdivision ordinance. So that was approved by the Board of Supervisors on the 19th as recommended by the Planning Commission. So they actually didn't make any further change to that, and that had an effective date of January 1st. So we are currently under that zoning and subdivision ordinance. We are in the process of printing those now, so those will be given to you as soon as they're finished printing.
Excellent.
So for clarity, as of today, all new applications have to.
Yes, sir. If they were not deemed complete, as in all comments resolved by January 1st, they fall under this zoning and subdivision ordinance.
Okay. Another question about the Amazon rezoning Birchwood property. At the Board of Supervisors, they directed the new county attorney to renegotiate the terms of the Amazon agreement.
Heard about that.
And my question is, should for any reason the project doesn't go forward, is that land still zoned industrial? I mean, the zoning stays.
Yep.
If I may, I have two other items just on this annual report. I can roll through those and then we can open a discussion about your question if that's acceptable. We had one comp plan amendment. That was the Birchwood Amazon request. That was approved by the board to enlarge the Route 3 West primary settlement area. We had 3 subdivision exception requests. The only one approved was for the Bowen Minor subdivision. The other 2 were for Potomac Landing West. Those were both denied by the board. And then one proffer amendment associated with the Birchwood Amazon application, and that one was approved. And that will conclude the annual report. Do you want to touch on that?
Are you permitted to comment or inform us on what this renegotiation is all about with Amazon?
So on December 19th, 2023, the board did approve entering into the Amazon incentive agreement, and that was signed. On January 2nd, the board decided to pass a motion to reconsider the agreement, and that reconsideration will take place on their next meeting next Tuesday on January 16th. And at the January 2nd meeting, the board directed the interim county attorney to begin renegotiating with Amazon.
Are you able to give us any more detail on where the issues really lie in all this?
Not much has taken place since then. Like just on the 2nd, the board passed a motion to reconsider the agreement. The agreement is still in place as of right now because no action has been taken on the agreement itself. They just voted to reconsider the board's December 19th approval. And they can take action at their January 16th meeting if they so choose.
So just out of curiosity and unofficially, I'm not asking you to go out on a limb or anything, but the rebate aspect of the agreement with Amazon, that's state direction? That's not up to the county, is it?
The county can work on negotiating terms of the agreement. The state does have, they passed a grant, I believe, back in 2023, early 2023, that would allow companies to come in and get an incentive, some kind of rebate back. But the county can work to negotiate terms of the agreement, so yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I find interesting, because I think it sends a sort of a chilling attitude toward any prospective developers, is that in December, the outgoing board approved that package, right?
Correct.
And Amazon doesn't strike me as a company that lets a lot of grass grow under their feet. So I'm assuming, and I could be wrong here, that they formalized some agreements with companies they're working with and, did a lot of things and probably made some financial commitments. And I read the article in the Freelance Star about that there's a clause somewhere in the Board of Supervisors guidance that allows them to reconsider. But I just find it sort of chilling that a prospective developer who thinks he got something approved and moved forward now realizes that that final approval wasn't really a final approval. And if I were a developer, I'd have second thoughts now.
It's beyond our purview.
It's my understanding that that was not the final approval. It still had to go to the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance for approval. So there were additional steps. I understand. I don't discredit what you're saying. I just wanted to add some additional information.
Fredericksburg
Just
Regional
to clarify,
Alliance.
it did not need any approval from the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance. It just needed approval from the King George Economic Development Authority and the King George Board of Supervisors. Both boards did approve the agreement in December, and the board chose to reconsider that approval January 2nd, but it did not.
Maybe I misunderstood.
I make this comment just as a comment. I really hope the new board knows what they're doing, because the ownership of Amazon strikes me as an individual who's not shy about litigating.
Litigious bunch.
So board will do what the board wants to do, but I hope it works out. And the other thing that concerns me is I hope we don't do anything that totally causes them to just pick up and move to another county to do their development, because I'm, as a citizen here, I'm concerned about the tax base and what the loss of that potential income to the county will do to the individuals who live here and may see their individual taxes go up.
I will point out that when Amazon came to King George, they also came to surrounding localities. They came to Spotsylvania, Stafford, and Caroline. And those three other localities did approve their incentive agreements with Amazon. And as of right now, I don't believe there's any action to reconsider those approvals. Some of those already passed the date where they could reconsider.
Yeah, I find the whole thing interesting. Don't know enough about the law behind it to know how at risk the county is, but I do hope that somebody gave good counsel to the board, and that I just, given that my position on this board expires at the end of this month, I may not be here next month to hear ongoing discussion. So I just wanted to throw a comment out there. So, and I'm sure anybody listening can attribute it to me. So, thank you.
With that, we'll go to establish regular meeting date, second Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m.
I make a motion. Sorry, go ahead. We can do it together. Motion to establish regular meeting date is second Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Second. All right, I think we've got a second and third. And
Yeah, I come in from Maryland.
yeah, I know we've got some commuters, so. Yep.
All right, we got second. All in favor? Motion passes. All right. Director's report.
No director's report tonight, just an annual.
That's unacceptable. Other business?
I can double up on February if you like.
Okay. We'll do it again. Yeah. Other business, 2023 disclosures of real estate holdings forms.
Could I get I'm sorry, could I get a copy of that? Because I need to fill that out.
I can print copies, anybody who needs one after this meeting. This is just in place for a friendly reminder. Before February 1st, we need your real estate disclosure forms. Those can be submitted to myself or in administration upstairs.
Can you accept an email of that, or do you need the original?
We need the original. You can fill it out electronically, but we believe you need to print it out and actually sign the copy.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Stewart, what date was that due? Was this?
Prior to February 1st.
Oh, okay.
We need to
Plenty
submit
of time.
an original signature. In other words, an ink signature.
Yes, sir.
We'll get a hard copy.
Just 2 copies after this. Mr. Parker and Mr. DeCorder, you both need a copy after this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You have it, the form is on page 61 of the agenda file that was sent out. Starts there.
Right, want to talk about the upcoming certification courses?
So this is the Virginia Certified Planners Commissioner Program for the CPC. This is designed to provide the legal and technical background needed by citizen planners and decision makers. The program covers the what and why of planning in addition to the reviewing principles. There are several upcoming programs both in person and virtually, especially if you have not taken this course in the past. It'd be beneficial to look at. We actually budget this for the community development. So if you're interested in going, please reach out to Sierra or myself, and we can help facilitate that. Also take a moment to congratulate Mr. Fox. He recently completed his certification, so he's now a certified planning commissioner.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna throw the plug out there because I didn't know if you guys had signed up because I did it a couple years ago and I thought it was really helpful.
Yeah, I just completed it as well, and worth the time.
Never been
Congratulations.
more proud of either of you.
I got a certificate.
Yes, I would like some assistance with getting signed up for that, please.
It is a good class. In all seriousness, it's very good. Yeah. Yeah. Michael Chandler. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he had an encyclopedic knowledge of every county in Virginia. It was pretty amazing. All right.
Okay, so we're at that point. We have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
You have a second? All in favor? We are adjourned.
Good try, everybody.